Hello everyone, to another Innistrad Crimson Vow Spoilers Review Day 8. I believe there are 71 cards left in the set out of 277 cards. Hope we see some good vampires this time. It feels like we've only been seeing spirits, humans, and zombies for the most part. So right now, with all the vampires we've seen, it's not going to change the vampire deck much in both format in my honest opinion. We really need some good 1 or 2 drops to go against whatever is happening in the format, because in standard for our top end we got Immersed Predator, which is probably better than every other 4-drop vampires we got in the set. So there's definitely competition going on within the vampire deck itself. Anyways, there's a lot to go through today, so let's take a look at the first card. Wash Away, 1 mana instant speed cleave, you can pay 3. Counter target spell that wasn't cast from its owner's hand. Otherwise, it's just a 3 mana counter target spell. It's kind of cool. 1 mana counter spell that can hit for tell stuff such as Rune's Epiphany or Saw It Coming. You can play this card in Zoria's Tempo deck. You can also Elite Spellbind or something to get it out of their hand, and then if they decided to pay the tax and play the spell, then you only have to pay 1 mana to counter that spell. So very flexible, because you can also just play this card for 3 mana and becomes a 3 mana counter spell, which is usually the normal cost for most counter spells in standard and historic. Next card, Skull Skaab, 2 mana 2/2 zombie in the mirror color. Exploit, whenever a creature you control exploits a non-token creature, create up 2/2 black zombie creature token. So 2 mana 2/2, not bad. Also zombie, might be playable also because the fact that this is in the mirror color, and in standard they are looking for more Dimir zombies. If you're playing Dimir zombies in standard, you probably want this. Not sure how playable this is though. It says only when it exploits a non-token creature. So in Midnight we got a bunch of decayed zombies, and the fact that we can't actually exploit decayed zombies to create a zombie, so this card may or may not see play. Next card, Edgar Charmed Groom. So Edgar is finally a playable standard card. 4 mana 4/4 legendary creature, vampire noble. Other vampires you control get +1/+1. When it dies, return to the battlefield transformed under its owner's control. It becomes Edgar Markov's Coffin. Legendary artifact, at the beginning of your upkeep, create a 1/1 white and black vampire creature token with lifelink and put a bloodline counter on Edgar Markov's Coffin. Then if there are 3 or more bloodline counters on it, remove those counters and transform it. So unfortunately, another 4 mana creature when we already have 3 different 4 mana creatures in vampire deck that are also competing against each other for a slot in the deck. So this is very disappointing. 4 mana Lord effect is honestly whatever, and also if it dies it requires you to wait 3 more turns, and also this becomes a legendary artifact, means that they can just Prismari command it, which exists in both formats right now in historic and standard. So the idea is that when this creature dies, it creates 3 vampire tokens, wait 3 turns, then goes back to being a 4/4, and then pumping the vampire tokens that it created, and you can eventually swing out that way. But not sure how playable, considering vampire in standard is in Rakdos color. This is also Orzhov color, so if they want to play this, they have to splash white. So I'm not sure if this is powerful enough to splash white in a vampire deck at the moment in standard. Overall, pretty disappointing. Next card, Bleeding Spirit. 2 mana 3/1 creature spirit. You can pay 1 mana, exile 3 cards from your graveyard. It gains first strike this turn. Discard a card, exile Fleeting Spirit, return it to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. Okay, this card seems kind of busted. So compared to Adonto Vanguard or Seasoned Hollowblade, if you would put a counter on this card or play an aura spell on this card, it will fall off if you happen to exile this card. But something that's going for this card is that it can avoid bounce effects and exile effects. But the downside is that if you want this to trade with something, you have to exile 3 cards, which might be harder than you'd expect. Next card, Cemetery Illuminator. Another spirit card. 3 mana 2/3 spirit, flying. Whenever it enters the battlefield or attacks, exile a card from a graveyard, not just your graveyard. You may look at the top card of your library at any time. Once each turn, you may cast a spell from the top of your library if it shares a card type with the card exiled with this card. So, first of all, good graveyard hate. Similar card. And also, similarly to Augur Bottom and Realm Walker, it lets you play off the top of your library. So the turn it comes down, if you exile a spirit, you can then play spirits off the top next turn. And once you attack with this card, you can also exile a land card, letting you just play off the top of your library. So really great card for spirits. I think we might even see spirit decks being a thing in standard because of this card. Low chance, but maybe if there's more spirits, considering how many spirits we've been getting lately. In Historic, I'm definitely going to try this card out in the spirits deck. I think this card is really sweet. Next card, we got Jacob Hauken Detective, 2 mana 0/2 legendary creature, human advisor. You can tap itself to draw a card, then exile a card from hand face down. Then you can look at it. As long as it remains exiled, then you may pay 6 to transform it. It becomes a legendary enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, exile top cards of your library face down. You may look at it as long as it remains exiled. During each of your turn, you may play a land or cast a spell without paying its mana cost from among the cards exiled with this permanent. So the fact that this is a legendary enchantment and not a legendary artifact, it is much harder to remove, and thank God, because you are paying 6 mana for this. And not to mention the 2 mana cost you paid for the creature part. So it is a really expensive card. It also takes a time to set up because you have to actually tap your creature. I mean, it's so easy to remove this card. It's a 2 mana 0/2, and it can't even fight back. You can't even block with this. I think this is definitely going to be unplayable, but the effect is very sweet. Next card, Cemetery Desecrator. 6 mana 4/4 creature zombie menace. When it enters the battlefield or dies, exile another card from graveyard. When you do it, choose one. Remove X counters from target permanent, where X is the mana value of the exiled card. Or, target creature an opponent controls gets -X until the end of the turn, where X is the mana value of the exiled card. So for 6 mana, you are playing a 4/4 menace, and it requires you to have something in the graveyard. I think this card is gonna be unplayable, because in order for this to be a removal, you require creatures or just any permanents with high mana cost in your deck. And if your deck is filled with high mana cost cards, then your deck probably isn't good enough to be played and constructed. So yeah, Cemetery Gatekeeper. 2 mana 2/1 vampire. Finally, a vampire. First strike, when it enters the battlefield, exile a card from a graveyard. Whenever a player plays a land or casts a spell, if it shares a card type with the exiled card, it deals 2 damage to that player. So very aggressive card, and it even has first strike. This will, I think, 100% see play, and because vampires can use blood tokens to discard unwanted cards for this card to exile, it has a pretty nice synergy. And you also don't need to rely on your graveyard. It can also be from your opponent's graveyard. Very good card. Even if this card doesn't exile a card, it's also just a 2 mana first strike, 2 mana 2/1 first striker. I think this card definitely will see play in your vampire deck, and it might even see play in non-vampire decks. Next card, Katilda, Dawnhart, Martyr. 3 mana star, legendary creature, spirit warlock. Flying, lifelink, protection from vampires. Katilda's power and toughness are each equal to the number of permanents you control that are spirits or enchantments. Disturb, you can pay 5 and it becomes an aura. An enchanted creature does the same thing as Katilda. I mean, 3 mana stat stick that grows with spirits you control. It might go into a spirit deck if this 3-drop scripts are lacking, but I don't think it does. So I don't think this card will see play. It also is a really bad top deck, because if you top deck this without any board, it's just a 3-mana 1/1. Yeah, I don't think this card is going to be playable. Next card, Winged Portent. 3-mana instant speed. Draw a card for each creature with flying you control. Believe you can pay green and blue, but it's 6 cost to draw a card for each creature. I don't think this cleave cost will ever be played, but I'm just not sure how many copies you'd play, because if you do top deck this card and then you don't have any creatures on the board, then this doesn't do anything, so might be unplayable. I'm not sure. Next card, Creepy Puppeteer. 4-mana 4/3 human rogue. With haste, whenever it attacks, if you attacked with each exactly one other creature this combat, you may have that creature's base power and toughness become 4/3 until the end of the turn. So the turn you play this, you attack with another creature. The creature also, so you're now swinging for 8 damage. Might be playable as a red aggro deck's top end. It doesn't seem too bad to me because it also has haste. So along with Creepy Puppeteer and Cemetery Gatekeeper, maybe red deck wins archetype might just become a thing. Grouchy Hermit. 4-mana 3/3 human werewolf. Whenever a Grouchy Hermit is dealt damage, it deals that much damage to any targets. You can pay 2 to get +2 until the end of the turn. In Nightbound, it becomes a Howlpack out. Avenger, 4/4 werewolf. Whenever a permanent you control is dealt damage, deal that much damage to any target. You can also pay 2 to get +2 until the end of the turn. Seems like a really good card for standard, actually. Especially in a Gruul werewolf deck. It's just a really good blocker, makes your opponent unable to attack at the very least. I think this card will actually trade for 2 creatures at a time. It's also a werewolf, which is relevant. I think Gruul aggro deck will probably want this card. Next card, Olivia's Attendant. 6-mana 6/6 vampire. Why are all the vampires so expensive? I don't understand. Menace. Whenever this deals damage, create that many blood tokens. You can pay 3 to deal 1 damage to any targets. This is just a draft card, right? Unplayable, constructed, too costly. Next card, Splendid Reclamation. 4-mana sorcery spell. Return all land cards from graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Maybe if Field of Dead was legal in Historic, but I can't really see any applications to any decks. Maybe if you play Valakut Exploration, that's as kind of a niche combo potential. And we're done. Speedrun complete towards the end. I wanted to go as fast as possible because there were so many cards spoiled today. So spirits are looking pretty good. Vampires are looking really bad. Except for that one creature with the first strike, Cemetery Gatekeeper, but honestly, Cemetery Gatekeeper could just go into any other decks. And if you're playing red in your aggro deck or even mid range, I think it just goes into any decks. But as always, leave a comment and a like if you've enjoyed the video, and if you haven't subscribed, I'd really appreciate if you did. I'll see you all later with another episode of Crimson Vow Spoilers Review.